Designed to be an upgraded variant of the Project 20380 Steregushchiy-class corvette, the Project 20385 Gremyashchiy-class is designed to be an exclusive Pacific Fleet class of vessels centering around an upgraded weapons loadout. The project can be traced back to the Steregushchiy class, with Steregushchiy herself being laid down in late 2001, launching in 2005, and taking a further 2 years to commission. This unit would differ from her sister ships due to the cash-down close-in weapon system being fitted. This was superfiring over the 100mm main gun. The further class of vessels would be fitted with the 12 Redoute vertical launch silos. This weapon system would also be brought over to the Gremyashchiy class. Gremyashchiy would be the lead ship, and she'd be laid down at the Severnaya Verft shipyards in Saint Petersburg. Steel cutting started in May 2011, with the first section being laid down in February 2012. Due to issues with the annexed Crimea, the ship fell into the same logistical issues as the Admiral Grigorievich class frigates and the Steregushchiy's in terms of the supply for the power plant. The diesel engines ordered for these ships would have been made in Ukraine, and so, slight problem, they would have to go and buy them from somewhere else, and Germany would step up to supply. After a single bunch of engines turned up, they would be reverse engineered and shoved into the ships being built. By 2016, the ship would have her engines installed and most of the structure complete. She would end up being launched at the end of June 2017, ready for fitting out. During the fitting out stage, she would have all of the wiring, piping and the combat system installed or completed. The mess decks, galley, as well as some more internal fittings would end up being finished. This process would take about 2 years before she went to sea on sea trials in late 2019. Gremyashchiy would be the lead ship of the class, as well as the name holder. She would be of 2,500 tons displacement, a length of 106 metres, beam of 13 metres, and a draft of 8 metres. The hull would be subdivided into 9 sections, all with watertight doors. Her hull would be constructed of steel, with a superstructure being built of composite lightweight materials for less top weight. The Gremyashchiy is classified as a multi-purpose corvette by NATO. However, internally in the Russian Federation, she is classified as a guard ship. The Gremyashchiy is capable of 27 knots at flank speed, however cruise speed is 14 knots. At cruise speed, she is got a range of about 4,000 nautical miles. However, like the Steregushchiy's before her, she is limited to operations in the region of 15 days, due to the food provisions for her 100 crew members. However, if operating with a replenishment ship, this can be longer. For the Gremyashchiy, she and her class's organic sensor fits would consist of the Thurk E2 phased array early warning radar, operating in the Echo band, and has a range of about 70 nautical miles. This system is fitted atop of the foremast. The Zelson multifunctional dual-band radar, located on all sides of the foremast. This system has a range of 108 nautical miles. Monument Alpha ASA radar, fitted to 4 sides of the foremast. This system has a maximum range of 40 nautical miles and is an India band radar. 3 MR231 or palm frond navigational India band radars, located on the port and starboard of the main mast on large yards and atop of the bridge. Sonars consists of 1 Minotaur low-frequency variable depth sonar located in the transom, and 1 bullnose hull-mounted medium-frequency sonar. Electronic warfare suite on board will consist of 2 TK-25-2 ESM receivers, 2 TK-25-2 laser warning receivers, and 4 TK-25 TAC-2 jammers capable of operating against India and Juliet banner radars. The weapon systems is where this ship shines. She is armed with 8 UKSK vertical launch silos, capable of taking Caliber land attack cruise missiles, Ssn33 Sizzler anti-ship missiles, Onyx or Ssn33 Strobel anti-ship cruise missiles, and finally the Ssn33 hypersonic anti-ship cruise missile. Additionally, 2 8-cell Redoute vertical launch silos for SAN-21 Delta Growler surface-to-air missiles, 1 100mm 59 caliber Alpha 190 main gun, 2 AK-630 30mm close-in weapon systems, 2 14.5mm machine guns, 2 quad 324mm or 12.8-inch torpedo tubes. Decoys consist of 4 PK-10 decoy launchers for chaff and infrared rounds, and finally the aircraft complement will consist of one hangar and a flight deck capable of taking a Ka-27 PL Helix or variant. So now I think it's time we have a look at the Steregushchiys compared to the Gremyashchiys to give you a good comparison between the two to show how similar and how different they are, and if the Gremyashchiy is actually a proper upgraded variant of a Steregushchiy, or if it's not. Now, I've produced a massive spreadsheet to actually compare the 3 different batches of Steregushchiys compared to the Gremyashchiy. And for this I'm going to be using batch 1, which is Steregushchiy herself, pen number 330, because she is the batch 1. She is basically the lead ship. Batch 2 is the Ssn33 to the Gremyashchiy and then the Steregushchiy. And then the batch 3 is the Retevi to the Almaz and Zhepov and beyond. Then obviously I've got the Gremyashchiy. This is not going to be scripted, this is going to be me basically talking you through this Excel spreadsheet to basically describe the differences, and basically that's how it's going to go. This is sort of new to me, so I hope this actually works. So, in terms of displacement, Steregushchiy and, or we'll call them batch 1 and batch 2. So the batch 1 and batch 2 of the Steregushchiys are 2,100 ton vessels. Batch 3s are 2,200 tons, which is an increase of 100 tons over the baseline variant. Gremyashchiy comes in at 2,500 tons, which is an increase of 300 tons over the batch 3s, meaning it's 400 tons heavier than the batch 1 and 2s, meaning it's a heavier vessel, and then thus means it's a larger vessel. In terms of length, the batch 1, 2 and 3 Steregushchiys are 104.5 meters long. Where it comes with the Gremyashchiy, she has an increase of about 1.5 meters, which is extended out the stern to make her 106 meters long. In terms of beam, it's 30 meters across the board for the batch 1 to 3 and the Gremyashchiy class. Draft of the main hull on these Steregushchiys is 3.7 meters, compared to 5 meters on the Gremyashchiy, meaning she sits further or deeper into the water. That's only 1.3 meters on the main hull. Power plant is the same across the board, so all of them are powered by 4 diesel engines, and they all produce 23,664 horsepower. Complement is slightly different when it comes to the Gremyashchiys. So across the board for the Steregushchiys, they all have a complement of 90 personnel. On the Gremyashchiy, she has 100, meaning she is more manpower intensive by the addition of 10 extra crew. In terms of top speed, cruise speed, range and endurance, it's pretty much exactly the same for top speed and cruise speed. Because they basically use exactly the same hull and the same hull form, they will all do 27 knots at top speed, a cruise speed of 14 knots, however the range is slightly different. For the batch 1, 2 and 3 of the Steregushchiys, their range is 3,800 nautical miles. Compare that to the Gremyashchiy, which has got an extra 200 nautical miles put on top of it to make it 4,000 nautical miles of range, which means it's more capable, can go further. The endurance for Steregushchiys is 15 days. Now, that is exactly the same as the Gremyashchiy. It's 15, maybe 16 at a push. So that gives you an extra day-ish of operations. However, that's unconfirmed. We're now going to talk about weapons. So, the batch 1 Steregushchiy has not got any vertical launch silos. The batch 2 and 3 Steregushchiys have got 12 Redut vertical launch silos. The Gremyashchiy, on the other hand, has 2 8-silo Redut vertical launch silos plus the 8 UK SK vertical launch silos, meaning the Gremyashchiy has more vertical launch silos by a factor of 2. So she has 24 instead of the 12. In terms of the surface-to-air missiles, okay, So the Batch 1, Steregushchiy, she is armed with 40 Ssn33 Zircon. These are surface-to-air missiles fitted to the Kashtan. They have a speed of Mach 1.87, they can go 5.38 nautical miles away from the ship, and they can strike a target flying at 11,500 feet. Batch 2 and 3s are armed with 12 Ssn33 Charlie Growler. Okay, this can go Mach 3.15 out to 25 nautical miles and can hit a target flying at 65,000 feet. The Gremyashchiy, on the other hand, is armed with 16 Ssn33 Delta Growlers. Again, same speed of Mach 3.15. They can now go 65 nautical miles away from the ship and can hit a target flying at 100,000 feet. In terms of the striking power of these ships, so all Steregushchiy-class vessels are armed with 8 Ssn25 Switchblade anti-ship missiles. These got a range of 80 nautical miles, they fly at Mach 0.8, and they all have a 145 kg semi-armor piercing warhead. The Gremyashchiys, on the other hand, are slightly different, because they use a vertical launch silo instead of a quad pack that's facing port and starboard. They can obviously take more missiles, and they are a bit more chop and changed. So, the Gremyashchiys can take 8 Ssn26 Strobel, or Onyx, anti-ship missiles. These can fly Mach 2.4 out to 240 nautical miles and have a 250 kg HE warhead. Ssn27 Sizzler. This has got a speed of Mach 0.8, very similar to Switchblade. This has a range of 200 nautical miles and has a dart warhead, which is basically, you can't shoot it down. It launches out, you're dead. And finally, Ssn33 Zircon. This is a hypersonic anti-ship missile. It flies at Mach 9, has a range of 540 nautical miles, and has also got a 300 kg HE warhead. So from that, you can understand that there is a lot more missiles than, obviously, the Steregushchyi's can take. Steregushchyi's armed with Harpoonski, i.e. the Russian version of Harpoon. Gremyashchiy armed with pretty much everything else that the Russians have in their arsenal, except for the very big stuff like Shipwreck and Sandbox. In terms of land attack capabilities, the Steregushchyi's do not have any land attack capabilities whatsoever. The Gremyashchiys, on the other hand, can take 8 Ssn30 caliber land attack cruise missiles. Again, very similar to Sizzler because they're based on the caliber system. It's got a speed of Mach 0.8. These can go 750 nautical miles away from the ship, and they have a 400 kg semi-armor piercing warhead. So this means that the Gremyashchiy can be fitted for land attack missile missions as well as anti-shipping missions. Looking at the main gun and, well, basically looking at the guns here. So across the board, they're all armed with a single 100mm 59 caliber A190 main gun. This has a range of 8 nautical miles and has 400 rounds for the gun fitted on board. Machine guns, exactly the same. They've got two 14.5mm machine guns, and these can shoot out to 1 nautical mile. So, same across the board. In terms of the close-in weapon systems, this is where it gets slightly different. Because Steregushchiy being a batch 1, she has a Kashtan close-in weapon system, instead of obviously having the surface-to-air missiles. So this means she has a greater close-in weapon system defense than the rest of them. So, let's go over it. So, Steregushchiy has two AK-630 30mm close-in weapon systems, or the Dalek gun. This has got a range of 2.2 nautical miles and has 8,000 rounds on board, so that's 4,000 rounds per mount. Additionally, she has one Kashtan close-in weapon system with a range of 1.5 nautical miles and 9,000 rounds per gun. Kashtan has, obviously, two 30mm guns, which means it's got 4,500 rounds per gun. Plus, obviously, the surface-to-air missiles on top of it. The Steregushchiy Batch 2, 3 and the Gremyashchiy has only got two of the AK-630 30mm close-in weapon systems, meaning that the Steregushchiy baseline, i.e. Batch 1, has a better close-in weapon system, basically, than the rest of the class and the Gremyashchiy. In terms of the anti-submarine warfare capabilities of these vessels, Every single one is fitted with two quad 12.8-inch torpedo tubes for the Packet NK torpedo. This has a range of about 1 to 4 nautical miles and does 50 odd knots. Additionally, the Gremyashchiy is slated to take a vertical launch anti-submarine warfare missile, very similar to Silex, obviously in a vertical launch silo, a bit similar to Asarok in the US Navy service. Now let's talk about radars. This is where I like to work. So, in terms of the Steregushchiy herself, Batch 1, has got the FERC-E, or cross-round multifunctional echo band radar, and now has a range of 70 nautical miles. The Batch 2 and 3 has a FERC-E2 improved cross-round multifunctional echo band radar. This has a range of 81 nautical miles. Gremyashchiy has this FERC-E2 improved cross-round multifunctional radar. In addition, she's got the Zalson multifunctional dual-band radar, that has a range of 108 nautical miles, in addition to the Monument Alpha ASA radar, which is an India-band radar that goes out to about 40 nautical miles. So, Gremyashchiy wins in terms of long-range radars. Zalson is a multifunctional radar built into the ship's main mast, and it provides 360 degrees of coverage and is obviously longer range than the rest of them. The range resolution is also better because the ship and the radar uses the dual band frequency for better range resolution. Navigational radars is the same across the board. Every single ship has 3 MR231 or palm front navigational India band radars. These all have a range of about 35 nautical miles. In terms of the fire control radars, so the Batch 1 Steregushchys have a 5x10 Puma fire control radar. This is India band and can go to 16.2 nautical miles. Additionally, because of the Kashtan weapon system being fitted, she also has Hot Flash, which is the fire control radar for that system. This again is India band and has got a range of about 12 nautical miles. The Batch 2 and 3s have got the 5x10 Puma radar. Again, India band has a range of 16.2 nautical miles. The Gremyashchiy, because it has the Zalson multifunctional dual band radar, basically also uses it as a target acquisition and fire control radar. It's very similar to that being used on the Type 45s with the Type 1045 or Samsung radar. Now let's talk about sonar. So, all 3 Steregushchys have the bullnose medium frequency hull-mounted sonar. This has a range of 5 nautical miles. Additionally, they have the Vinyakta ME towed array sonar, which is fitted to the transom of the ship. This has a range of about 40 nautical miles and is a low frequency sonar. In terms of the Gremyashchiy, she's got a bullnose medium frequency hull-mounted sonar. Again, has got a range of 5 nautical miles. She also has an addition, the ISPN M1 Minotaur variable depth sonar, very similar to the towed array sonar. This is a newer system and has a range of about 40 nautical miles again. So, Gremyashchiy sort of wins on that aspect as well. In terms of decoys, so this is the off-board chaff/IR rounds. So, she's got 4 PK-10 Echo 10-barrel chaff launchers. This is the same across the entire board. They take 6 chaff rounds and 4 IR rounds in the actual launcher. Additionally to this, there is 30 chaff round reloads and 10 IR reloads on board the ships. That's the same across the board. Aircraft facilities are exactly the same. They have 1 hangar, 1 flight deck, and the capability to have 1 Ka-27 PL Helix, which is an anti-submarine warfare helicopter. So, looking at the bunch of things I've obviously given you here, it does seem that there is a lot more green on it than there is yellow and red. I mean, just from looking at it, from what I've described, it does seem that the Gremyashchiy is a much better and much more capable vessel than the Steregushchys are. Going back to Gremyashchiy herself, so Gremyashchiy, being a newly commissioned vessel, was commissioned into the fleet on December 29th, 2020. However, looking back at her sea trials, these would be viewed with keen interest by people like myself, as it was slated she would be capable of firing the Zircon anti-ship missile. However, this wouldn't happen, and the duty for firing the Zircon in the test firings would be passed over to the Admiral Gorshkov. However, she would conduct the Sizzler and Caliber test firings in the region of the White Sea from April 2019 until December of that year. During 2020, she would have a few maintenance periods and a few periods where she would fix some problems until she sailed from Severodvinsk to Saint Petersburg. There she would be commissioned. From commissioning to August 2021, the ship remained in the region of the Baltic, where she underwent preparations for her voyage to join the Pacific Fleet, as well as taking part in the Navy Day Parade in St. Petersburg and Kronstadt. In the early part of August 2021, Gremyashchiy sailed from St. Petersburg in the Baltic, alongside 2 Kilo-class SSKs, the Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky and the Volkov. Joining these ships would be the Yudloy 1 class destroyer, the Vice-Admiral Kulakov, the minesweeper Vladimir Gemalenyov. After a barrier patrol was conducted at the Skagerrak by Anti-Submarine Warfare units, the task group would sail through into the North Sea. Here they would be joining up with the Northern Fleet tanker, the Academic Passion, and the tugboat Altay, and they would proceed south through the English Channel. After a stop in the Bay of Seine for replenishment, the task group continued out the English Channel and towards the Bay of Biscay. They would pass through the Strait of Gibraltar around the 21st of the month. The task group would be observed at 0950 Zulu on the 27th of August, north of the island of Malta, by the Sentinel-2 satellite. The task group would arrive at Tartus on the 2nd of September, with the Kulakov being spotted by open source imagery from a satellite. At this point, it is reasonable to think that the Vladimir Yemelyanov broke off to return to the Black Sea. By the 17th of September, the Altay, the Academic Passion, and the Kulakov broke off to continue their long-range deployment, leaving the Gremyashchiy and the 2 Kilos basically in Tartus alongside the other 2 Kilos based there. It is probable that this period was spent fixing defects that were found on the voyage, as well as a probable restoring the ship with as much provisions as possible to make to their next port of call. On the 22nd of September, it was observed that a small task group was proceeding to sea from Tartus and heading south for the Suez Canal. They would start the transit on the 23rd, and by the 24th, the tugboat the Captain Guriev, part of the Black Sea Fleet, would join the task group. By the 28th, they passed through the Bab el-Mendez Strait and were into the Gulf of Aden. The ships would enter the port of Colombo in Sri Lanka on the 16th of October, remaining alongside for 2 days before putting back to sea for an 11-day transit to Myanmar for a 3-day defence engagement and replenishment. It's believed that these ships sailed on the 31st, however no imagery was actually taken. 5 days later, imagery showed that they were in the Singapore Strait, where the RSS Independence was escorting them through. After leaving the Singapore Strait, the ships turned north and sailed into the South China Sea, where they would spend 11 days at sea before entering the Philippine capital of Manila. At this point, the ship would be joined by the Dubna-class oiler, the Pachanga, who remained out to sea during this period alongside. It would appear that this would be a short visit, because the next time there was a report in open sources, she and co were entering Vladivostok harbour on November 30th. They would enter a rather blustery and snowy Vladivostok to a large crowd of people, and this deployment lasted about 112 days, give or take. Current open sources show that Gremyashchiy is now based out of Vladivostok and has not yet been to sea. Likely her crew is taking some leave. There is currently one vessel being fitted out at the Severnaya VF shipyard, and that is the Provorny. She is expected to commission next year in 2022. Hull 3 is to be the Buni. She's being built on the Pacific side of the country at the Amir shipyards, and she is currently under construction. Her keel was laid down on August 23, 2021. Hull 4 has had her first steel cut, and hulls 5 and 6 have been ordered. The last ship is expected to be in commission by 2028.